What's up?
I got you.
Cool. I'm going to mute my mic until the start of the show. Okay, Brian?
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It's Friday. Been a great week. Thank you for being with us all week long. Thank you to our affiliates around the state for being with us all week long. We've had a great week, busy weekend ahead with football and basketball and plenty to talk about tonight. Phil Kornbluth here in Myrtle Beach, Conway, covering South Carolina and the Puerto Rico tip-off. Never been to Puerto Rico, but this sort of gives you a feel of what the island would be like in terms of having an ocean nearby and plenty of sand and beautiful sunshine and great weather and things like that. It's unfortunate that Puerto Rico was hit so hard by the storms that they had to move the tournament to Myrtle Beach, but that was good for us. It gives us a chance to see some good basketball and cover the Gamecocks. And, of course, we've got the Charleston Classic where Clemson was an impressive winner last night over Ohio. Sir Willie Pelagic is down in the Holy City. And the Professor Tom Hayes is back at our studios in downtown Columbia, watching everything transpire. USC a winner today over UTEP. The Gamecocks played much better basketball from the get-go. Never let UTEP in this one. They win it 80-56, and they'll play for 5th place on Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll give you details on that and let you hear from Frank Martin coming up in a little bit. Typical Friday night show for you. We'll have our football filibuster with Sirs Jim Hodges and Alan Wilson. Professional help coming from Lee Sterling. Wofford coach Mike Ayers will join us live at the top of the next hour. The Terriers about to make the bus ride to Columbia tomorrow to take on the Gamecocks. Monty Dutton, the full Monty, on NASCAR. A lot of things happening here in the final weekend of the season down at Miami Homestead, or Homestead, Miami. Danica Patrick hanging it up after this season. Just going to do the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500 next year. So this weekend is almost as much about who's leaving the sport as to who wins the championship on Sunday. All that and more to cover, including should USC have sent its women's national champion basketball team to the White House today to be with many other national champion teams as part of National Championship Day. I say yes. I think the university should have said, you're going. You represent us. This is an educational opportunity. That is the first mission of the university, education. As much as we think sports is the first mission and winning championships is the first mission, education is. And, guys, I think there's nothing more educational if you're a student than going to the White House. And bunk all the politics and everything else. You know, unfortunately today, so many people let politics come into every decision that they make. I don't know if that was involved here. I don't know the background story. All I know is at some point in time, they got an invitation to come up on this particular day to be with these other teams and decided not to go. A golden opportunity missed, a golden opportunity for photo ops and very positive publicity for your university. You get nothing but negative publicity from something like this, as I see it. And, you know, I know it's in season. I know they've got a game against Wofford on Sunday, but to my way of looking at it, they could have hopped on a plane this morning, spent the day up there, and be back by late this afternoon, early this evening. If they wanted to practice tonight, so be it. But look, they're playing Wofford on Sunday. They could take the three of us and go out there and probably beat Wofford.
In my opinion, Corn, and I was there when Dawn Staley was having her media availability earlier today, and I kind of take her at her word in saying that, you know, while this was something that they wanted to be able to do logistically inside the season, and again, I know you're talking about Wofford, but think about this. Think about if they lose somehow either to Wofford or next week when they play Rutgers, who's no slouch. You know, this is something that it almost becomes an indispensable thing if you make the trip and somehow your time in the next couple of weeks ends up going not as scheduled or not as expected. I think that if this invite would have come, say, in the middle of the summer, no problem, no issue. You make the trip, you make it happen. The fact that it's happening in season, they played late last night on the road at Clemson. They only had about 2 weeks in order of advance notice on this particular championship day. You had basically from the time they won the championship in April to now 7 months where you could have had an invite that came toward the women's basketball team and made things happen. In my mind, it's a logistical issue. She didn't necessarily say anything that was politically motivated behind it. And in my opinion, you gotta have to take her at her word on that. Well, especially because she has the best interest of the athletes in mind.
Well, you take your word on it because back in September when she thought she was going to get an earlier invitation, she said, of course I'm going to the White House. But, of course, then when the schedule got into the middle of the season, and here's another key, guys, is that this is the championship day for a lot of the Olympic sports. The basketball team, men and women, football, they have their separate day when they're the only ones at the White House. So they were brought in. They were going to be brought in with the other people from the spring sports, which has never been done before.
And my response to that is so. And you know, I don't know why things worked out this way, okay? I mean, I'm sure the White House has more important things to worry about than trying to schedule championship teams. I know the North Carolina men's championship team in basketball didn't go for whatever reason. They couldn't.
They're in the middle of their season.
No, this was even earlier. They said they couldn't go because of their scheduling situation. So I can't speak to the backstory and what happened there.
Well, here's another thing about
from where I sit. I think Dr. Pastides, the president of the university, and the administration should have stepped in and said, hey, look, it's a great opportunity here. The Clemson football team went. I know it was their off season and all that kind of stuff. Here's a chance for the University of South Carolina to get some great publicity, have pictures taken with the president at various points in the White House. I saw pictures of the other teams who were there today, pictures with him in various areas of the White House. Get a tour of the White House, an educational moment as well. Is that not really what the mission of a university is? Should they not have stepped in and said, look, okay, we're going to make this happen for you. You're going to go. It's not going to affect you too much. You've got a game on Sunday. You'll have plenty of time to come back and prepare for Wofford. It's Wofford.
It doesn't matter, Corn. It's still another group of people with a pulse. Okay, that's the issue.
Come on, Will.
It's another group of people with a pulse. And here's the other part of it:
if you Wofford by 50 points, they won last night.
If you make this trip, Corn, that's a practice day. You can't get them. Now, remember how the rule that came in about that basically kept North Carolina and Duke from wanting to send their players to media days? That same rule applies. You would not have been able to practice them today as a result of that. Now, that's an NCAA issue. That's a whole other ball of wax. But you lose a practice day.
You give them the day off. You practice tomorrow. They don't play till Sunday.
Corn, how is that a responsible way to handle your basketball team? It's an irresponsible way to handle your basketball team. You want to win.
Totally disagree. You can't prepare. They played 3 when they go to the SEC tournament. How many nights in a row?
They played it until 10 o'clock last night.
They get in the SEC tournament.
But this
0.
is November. This is November.
They play. I'm saying because of the opponents and the
you want to tire them out before the end of the calendar year?
They could have gone today and be back to practice tomorrow very easily.
Why would she want to do that to her ball club? Why would she want to do that to her ball club? That's irresponsible.
I disagree.
Plus, not only that,
if they don't beat Wofford by 30 points or more on Sunday, I'll buy you lunch.
Plus, you don't know about the academic responsibilities involving the young ladies, too, because it is a student-athlete
thing.
They're
so concerned about the academic responsibilities that they go play on a Thursday night up at Clemson and get home at what time? I mean, come on. This would have been an academic responsible move to give them the experience of going to see the White House and learn something about what happens in the White House. You don't see the academic value in that?
Here's my last statement on the subject. The governor supported you as president early on in the campaign, gave you your speech at the convention. You have the former governor, who's the United Nations ambassador. He couldn't pull some strings and gotten an earlier date.
I can't speak for the White House's scheduling policies, but when you have the opportunity to go, in my opinion, you take advantage of that opportunity. We'll be right back.
You good, Will?
Yeah, I'm there. I just sent you a text.
Oh, okay. Phil said send him your picks.
Answer my question.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
All right, Sports Talk on a feisty Friday night from all across the state. Phil Kornblut in the Grand Strands. Will Pelagic down in Charleston. Professor Tom Hayes in the Midlands in Columbia. We don't have anybody in the upstate tonight. We need a fourth host to be up in the upstate tonight. Well, we will have Coach Mike Ayers from Spartanburg. That counts as the upstate for us here. Before we get on to other things, I want to remind you that our good friends at South Carolina Electric Cooperative, they're all gearing up for the upcoming North-South All-Star football game, the Touchstone Energy Cooperative Bowl. You can get tickets online right now at touchstoneenergybowl.com. They're only $15 until the 24th, and they go up to $20. Also, a couple of tickets and a $100 Visa gift card and free Touchstone Energy merchandise. Go to the website for their magazine, SC Living. That's scliving.coop/touchdown. scliving.coop/touchdown. December 1 is a deadline to enter. Here is what Dawn Staley said today. Will was over there. She had a little briefing prior to practice talking about Wofford and her team and also about not going to the White House. Here's what she had to say.
Coach Staley, why aren't you at the White House today?
Because I'm here practicing.
When did that invitation come in?
I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Do you feel like it should have come much earlier than it did?
I really hadn't given any thought since we started practice. I'm really been concentrating on getting our team better and practicing and trying to get an invite to the NCAA tournament. That's all I've been thinking about.
What would you say to people who might say that it's politically motivated or protest motivated and not logistically motivated like you seem to sound?
I can't speak on what other people think. People can think what they want to think. I'm here concentrating on my team and getting better. That's it.
Seems like a defensible point, Corn.
She makes a good point. Absolutely, she makes a good point. I think it's also a good point that they missed a golden opportunity, in my opinion, that would not have harmed her basketball team in any form or fashion. Again, if today was going to be the day, they played last night. You travel today, use it as your off day. You get back this afternoon. You practice tomorrow, as you would have done. You talked about them having to have a day off. Okay, today would have been their day off from practice. They would have gone up, met with the president, been to the White House, come home, relax, practice tomorrow, play Wofford on Sunday.
They were supposed to practice at 2:30 today, but they actually moved it up because despite the fact that they beat Clemson by 30, there were some things that they wanted to work on that they weren't necessarily happy about in the win over Clemson. Like, again, I know you're trying to sit here and say that Wofford is not a good opponent that really doesn't deserve the kind of respect that we seem to be giving them right now. But the fact of the matter is she puts herself in a very tough spot. If you go to the White House and something happens over the next couple of weeks, they will point to the fact that you took that day off away from practice on this Friday in order to make that happen. It just is not a risk she wants to take. She wants to win another national championship. She'd rather win another national championship than have to worry about this one day at the White House. And to be brutally honest, Corn, I can respect that moniker.
Well, sure. I give her all the respect in the world. I just think the university and Dawn are wrong on this. And I think somebody at the university should have stepped up and said, Coach, this is bigger than a lot of things, and we want you to go. We want you to represent our university. We want you pictured with the president. We want the players who can go and be pictured with the president. It's kind of bigger than you and kind of bigger than all that.
Here's my response to that. Have the president invite them before the season.
I'm not finished. Would you let me finish?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Again. We think this is bigger than that, and we want you to be there and represent us, and we get the good publicity off of that. Your program does as well. You're not going to miss any practice because you'll practice on Saturday and you'll play on Sunday. And you know what? Basketball is a game you're going to lose some games in the basketball season. This is not what I would say. You're going to lose some games in the basketball season. Everybody understands that. Are people ready to fire Frank Martin because his team played lousy yesterday and got beat? You lose games during the basketball season. I think the fact that they are playing.
You want them to tank against Wofford in order to go to the White House?
I think they're because they're playing a weaker opponent on Sunday in Wofford actually works more to their advantage. I got David Shelton standing by. Let's get to him because I want to talk about the state football playoffs that are coming up tonight as we head into the championship weekend for the independents. I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say here. The independent teams playing for their state championships this weekend. And then we've got third round action for the high school league teams. Our high school report brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. Skiza. For some reason, I couldn't think of the word Skiza there, David. Skiza championship this weekend.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. 8-man will be playing tonight and tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, and then the other 3 games will be played at Benedict. So yeah, we have reached that level of championship play in high school football. It just seems like the season started yesterday, but I can tell you it's in the low 50s to upper 40s. So I can promise you it's not August.
Yeah, it feels like championship weather for sure. Now, as far as the high school league games tonight, we got 40 teams left in the 5 classifications across the states. And what games are you looking at with the greatest interest? I imagine you're looking very hard at those 5A pairings tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really good games in all 5 classifications. I mean, some really good matchups. I mean, you start in 5A, and you've got Fort Dorchester and Spring Valley, and you've got Greenwood and Dorman, and you got Gaffney and Hillcrest and Dutch Fork and Somerville. I mean, those are some really good football teams still left playing, and I think they're going to be some really close games. In the 4As, you got the Cinderella Lower Richland going to go try to upset Hartsville on their home field. The game I'm at, North Myrtle Beach and Berkeley, that's 12-0 versus 11-1. You got Greenville and Greer with a rematch of a game they played about a month ago. And then Eastside is taking that high-powered offense to South Point with the idea that they can beat the Stallions. I'll be anxious to see how that game ends up because a lot of people have went into South Point thinking they had what it took and came away very disappointed.
Talking with David Shelton, our high school football report tonight here on Sports Talk. Interested in the Spring Valley and Fort Dorchester matchup. I guess as far as we know, Channing Tyndall's okay. He's going to be playing tonight for Spring Valley. Can they slow down Fort Dorchester, that defense?
Well, they better because I mean they're gonna they claim to be, and a lot of people have said they're the best defense. Very well could be the case, and I'm sure Fort Dorchester is going into this game thinking that they're going to have to execute at a very high level. The thing is, Spring Valley is going to have to score too. Spring Valley is not going to just hold Fort Dorchester to a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. They're going to have to find a way to score some points. And Fort Dorchester's defense, a lot of people don't talk about it, but it's really, really athletic. And, so it's a good matchup in terms of offenses, offenses versus defenses. And I think it's going to be a very good game. I definitely think it's going to be a full-quarter game. I don't think Fort Dorchester is going to walk away from Spring Valley. I still think they're going to win, but I think they're going to have to play full quarters to do it.
Anything 2A, 1A that you're looking at with a great deal of interest tonight, or do you see the usual suspects advancing into the next round?
Well, I think an interesting game has the defending state champions, Lakeview, playing at Baptist Hill, which has only lost 1 game. They've got Corey Fields, the North-South quarterback, who went over 3,000 yards for the 2nd straight year. He's thrown about 35 touchdowns. Baptist Hill has a very good passing offense. He throws the deep ball down the sideline and down the seam as good as anybody I've seen this year on tape or on in live, looking at them live. But Lakeview is the defending state champion, and that's going to be a very tall challenge for them.
All right, David.
Hemingway is the best team.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. Look for you tonight on our high school scoreboards, 10, 10:30, and 11. David Shelton with us. Back in a moment.
Will, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you send him your picks?
I just did.
Oh, okay. Thanks. He said he can see you now, so if you want to jump in, just wave out. There, you can smile.
Perhaps if the USC women's basketball team had gone to Washington today to visit the White House, they might have heard this song being played.
Get off of it, man. Seriously.
Around the area, because this is what they play when the president comes marching out, do they not?
Oh, my goodness gracious, man. It's over. Why are you perpetuating this? They're not going. Come on.
It's what I do here. I talk about things. Let's welcome in Governor Jim Hodges and Attorney General Alan Wilson. Good to have them with us for another edition of the Football Filibuster. Governor Hodges, should the USC women's team have gone to Washington today?
I think that's a decision for Coach Staley and the women on the team. If they want to go, they should go. But if it doesn't fit their schedule, they shouldn't go.
Boom.
General Wilson?
What he said.
Oh, what a couple of cowards.
Boom.
I'm telling you.
It's not about being a coward. It's about respecting her
Wait a
decision.
minute. I got a decision for all of you. Corn, you go.
I'd be happy.
Here's the problem. She had every opportunity to call the president a buffoon and say he was terrible and all that stuff. But guess what? She didn't. She just said it didn't work their schedule. And that's what you respect that.
Treat me like royalty. We've had this discussion. You guys are just joining us. I happen to think that the university should have stepped in and arranged for them to go up there today. Once in a lifetime opportunity for those folks. I think they would have enjoyed it, but that's just my opinion. I think they could have survived a day away from basketball to visit with the president and visit the White House and come back tomorrow and get ready for Wofford. But that's just my little, small, humble, all-American opinion.
Why she's a national championship coach and you're not.
Governor Hodges, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Phil and team?
We're good. Good. General Wilson, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm here with my son. We're about to go for a father-son movie tonight, but enjoying our Friday night.
That's great. What are you going to go see?
Justice League.
Wow. That should be a good flick for you. Be a good flick.
We like to catch all the blockbuster movies, the summer, fall period together, and this is one that we've been looking forward to a long time, so I'm excited to see it with him.
Fantastic. Well, you picked up a game last week on the Governor. You went 3-2. He went 2-3. So, Governor, you're 34-21. General, you're 31-24. Governor, we're heading down the stretch here. Your thoughts? What's your strategy here heading down the last couple of weeks of the regular season?
Well, I've had a much better year than I had last year, so I'm just going to stick with what's happening. I will tell you that Mark Richt made a fool of me last week. He certainly had his team play the game of a lifetime, and I was really surprised by that one.
Yes, I think a lot of us were surprised by at least the way they handled Notre Dame. Not maybe that they won, but just winning so decisively. Well, let's get into this week's 5 games, and we will alternate. General, you'll lead us off here, and we do not have the Gamecocks and Tigers involved since they're playing FCS opponents, so we'll do 5 other games. Let's begin with NC State at Wake Forest, General, with the Demon Deacons favored at home by 1.5.
Well, I hate these small spreads. They're real tight, and I just don't follow these teams other than NC State because we played them. But I'm going to go with NC State covering the spread on this one. I think they will, and I'm going to go with them.
All right, Governor.
I couldn't hear Alan really well, but I think he picked NC State, and that's what I'm going to do too. I think State's going to win this game.
Okay, both of you want the Wolfies. That's fine. Governor, Syracuse at Louisville. The Cardinals favored by 13.
I think that's too many points for that game. Syracuse has shown they can play pretty well, and I'm going to take Syracuse with the points.
Syracuse getting the 13 points. General, what do you think?
Syracuse. I'm going with Syracuse also.
Well, Syracuse as well, getting to 13. I kind of agree with you on that. General, Mississippi State at Arkansas. Who knows how much longer Bielema will be the big hog in town. He's getting 13 at home against Mississippi State. General.
You know, I went back and forth on this one a little bit, but I'm liking Mississippi State on the point. So I'm going to go with Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, you want the now Mississippi State is giving the points. You realize that?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes I get confused on my sheet. I want you to be clear. Governor, what do you think? Arkansas getting 13 at home.
I think the Hogs are going to show a little life in this one. I don't know that they beat Mississippi State, but I think they'll keep it closer than 13. So I'll take the points from the Hogs.
Okay. I don't know. I think Arkansas's mailed it in, as has this next team, Tennessee, getting 15.5 at home against LSU, Governor.
You know, I'm going to take LSU on this one.
A wise choice, General.
Well, because you said it was a wise choice, I guess I'll go with LSU also.
Well, you don't have to follow. Nobody agrees with me on anything. I wouldn't agree with me on that. Why should you agree with me on that?
Man, Hodges, I'm not going against you. I'm kidding. I actually had LSU picked.
Okay.
The feeling right now, and I just think the season will get worse for them before it gets better, so I'm going with LSU.
All right. In general, our last game is Kentucky. A lot of implications involved with this ball game as far as the result. What do you think?
You know, listen, we played, listen, there's two schools of thought. Georgia coming after that loss is going to want to just run the score up, try to get respect points back, or they've been exposed. I know the week before when we lost to them, we lost, by 2 touchdowns when we were expected to lose by, 23. So I'm going to go with Kentucky losing, but I think they're going to lose within the margin. So I'm going to go with Kentucky covering the spread.
Lose with dignity, Governor.
Oh, I think Georgia is going to – I think they're going to punish Kentucky after what happened to Georgia last week. This one ain't going to be close. Georgia is going to kill them.
I don't think you could have picked anybody. You could have picked anybody to face Georgia this upcoming week, and you could have given them as many amount of points. It still wouldn't be enough.
You think Georgia?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. General, let's give you a chance for amendments here. Anything that you have looked over that you want to amend at this point?
So if I recall, the governor went with Georgia, and I went with Kentucky. And then was it Mississippi State and Arkansas? He went with Arkansas. I went with Mississippi State, correct?
Yeah. Everything else is the same.
Well, at best, I get 2 on him. I'm probably gonna. I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna hold.
You're gonna hold, Governor.
I'm gonna hold.
What shall you do?
I'm gonna stick.
Gonna stick. Man goes with his first thought. It's always been his initial intuition. Has always been the best, right, Governor?
I don't know if it's best, but I generally stick with what I did, whether it's right or wrong.
Well, good luck to both of you guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Don't eat too much turkey. Look forward to having you with us next week.
You bet.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Our football filibuster, Governor Jim Hodges, and Attorney General Alan
Phil,
Wilson with us here on Sports Talk. Yes?
I was about to say, when I made this pick, and I said Georgia by 21, I said Georgia probably is going to annihilate whoever they play. And you know what I thought about when I thought about that pick? Was now
what did you think about?
Now I see that why Dabo didn't take the knee. He knew that another touchdown would put him number 2 in the poll, so he went ahead and scored another touchdown.
You're probably right. You're probably right. I mean, cosmetics, adding on to the score, building the spread. That was probably in the back of his mind for sure.
He's always been a cosmetic guy.
The Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge. Let's update the standings here. Very important that people know what's going on here. The Big Kahuna down in Charleston, Bobby Harton, your leader at 32-23. Hot on his heels would be your fearless leader here, me, at 31-24. Let's see. Sir Will is 28-27. Pro's 28-27. Y'all be tied. Let's see. Matt, the newsman's in last, 23-32. Kev Cohen, 24-31. The bad boy, Alan Smothers, 27-28. We'll pass along our picks later. Up next, professional help.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
We all need some professional help at times. This might be one of those times for some of us. Let's get some professional help as we welcome in Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com, coming off a 1 and 2 week with us last week, and perhaps better than that with the folks who use his service on a regular basis. Good evening, sir.
How are you?
We're doing great. How are you?
can't complain. I'm on my way. I'm actually going to referee a regional state final game today. So referee about 4 or 5 games a year, and I got the call today. So bet you didn't know I had that on my resume.
I did not know that. You're doing a football game, did you say? It's a regional playoff football game?
Yeah. I'll be the linesman for one of the regional final games in Fort Lauderdale between American Heritage and Orlando Bishop Moore. The 2 teams that both won they both won the last 2 state championships in their classification the last few years.
Very good. We'll make some good calls out there, just like the folks want you to make some good calls tonight and over the weekend. Let's begin with telling everybody where to go to get your info over the weekend.
Well, just go to the website, ParamountSports.com. We even got free picks up there available on some videos in the NFL. So you want to check out college or NFL games, check out the videos, sign up for the free picks. I think they were 60% the last 6 years on. So it's all available at ParamountSports.com.
Okay, let's get to the games that you have for us tonight. And we begin with, let's do Wisconsin-Michigan. Huge game, of course, national implications for the Badgers. They're favored by 7.
Yeah, weather could be a factor here in this game. They're saying it could be in the mid-30s by the time they kick off. Winds anywhere from 25 to 55 miles an hour. So you got to look at ball security here. And the quarterback for Michigan, Brandon Peters, small sample size, only 48 attempts, but has not thrown an interception. Here's something you rarely will see for a team that's 10-0 like Wisconsin. They have a quarterback that's thrown an interception 1 every 17 attempts here. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to come up with something. I think he's a little upset that no one's talking about him here. He might try a trick play or two. I'm going to take Michigan plus the 7.5. I have Wisconsin winning the game 24-20, but I think Michigan plus 7.5 probably the right side of this contest.
Yeah, I got nothing to lose if you're Michigan in terms of the national picture. What about Ole Miss favored by 3 against Texas A&M?
I like Texas A&M with Nick Starkel as their quarterback. So, this is a team, Texas A&M has a lot of athletes. Every year you see guys drafted high, just can't seem to put it together late in the season. But with Nick Starkel, I think they're a different team here. Ole Miss, giving up at least 34 points every SEC game, over 400 yards. We've talked about it many, many times. This is a team that, they've done well the last couple of weeks, but this is usually the time when they fade. They might also be looking ahead to the Egg Bowl here. I think in a high-scoring game, I like A&M here, 38-34.
Okay, let's go to LSU, 15-point favorite going to Knoxville to play Tennessee. Does Tennessee do the players even care anymore?
I don't think so. I think they're going to be worried about who their coach is. If they've had Ogeron coaching them, he's been in this situation. He's probably one of the best interim coaches that can rally the troops for a few weeks. But usually the first week for a team that's rudderless, the coaches are putting out their resume. The players are talking to everyone. They want to find out who might be the new head coach. They're worried about playing time. Guys that, don't want to play. They have injuries. This LSU team will just run right over you. So I like LSU here, 38-17.
Yeah, I can see guys having a big day. Georgia and Kentucky, of course, all kind of big stuff involved with this game. The Bulldogs coming off that lopsided loss, and they're favored by 21.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to see is you're going to see them bounce back here. Maybe similar to the Ohio State team after that loss to Iowa. They came back and just thrashed Michigan State. Kentucky's only really faced 2 good rushing offenses. They give up 213 and 284 yards on the ground against those teams. And, we know Georgia can run the ball. A little shocked that Georgia didn't put in Eason in the second half. I thought they needed to push the ball down the field, and I think it just tells you probably Eason's going to be transferring next year. So Georgia probably gets back on track here, and you got to think that Stoops is just happy he pocketed that $250,000 bonus. So last week with that 7th victory here, I think Georgia's going to win this game here, probably something like 42-14.
You don't think a healthy Steven Johnson is going to work in UK's favor?
I mean, can't hurt, but I think Georgia's going to be angry here. And they pretty much control their own fate. So tough game for Georgia. I think they'll maybe pull out some starters once they get up early. They're going to start getting ready for Georgia Tech early the following week.
All right, your game of the week. Ugh. Florida laying 10 against UAB. Of course, you don't look at the cosmetic view of that game,
No.
Florida, UAB. You look at it from a different perspective.
How about this? The look ahead on this game, if it was to be played the opening week, just looking at my power ratings, I went back. Florida would probably have been a 32-point favorite. I mean, what a job Bill Clark has done. Florida, we're going to find out, can they finally beat a team in a step-down game here by double digits, or do they go down? Could this be another horrifying, just terrible performance by Florida? So if you want to get Florida UAB, we'll give it to you for free. Just call toll-free 800-400-9741. Again, the number 1-800-400-9741. If you're looking to build the bankroll, 7 games, $77, ParamountSports.com.
Sounds like a winner. Real quick, what do you think the line will be on South Carolina Clemson next week from what you hear?
Oof. The game is where? Where's that game?
Williams-Brice.
Wow. It's at Clemson?
No, Columbia.
Oh, it's in Columbia. I
Mhm.
think Clemson will probably be 10.5, 11-point favorite.
Very good. You enjoy your game tonight. Stay out of the way of those big fullbacks and big offensive tackles. And we'll talk to you next week.
At 54, I got to stay out of the way of even the quick defensive back. So it'll be fine. We'll talk
Them
next
too.
week.
Thank you, Lee. Have a great week. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com, sharing his wisdom with us here tonight on Sports Talk. Okay, as far as how the panel here at Sports Talk sees this week, NC State and Wake Forest, the majority of us taking NC State. In fact, only Kev Cohen is taking the Demon Deacons. Louisville and Syracuse, a little bit of a mixed bag here. I've got Louisville, as does the pro. Bobby's got Louisville. Everybody else is taking Syracuse. Mississippi State, consensus across the board. Everybody wants Mississippi State laying the 13 against Arkansas. Same thing with LSU. We all think LSU will roll it up on Tennessee. And Kentucky, Georgia, I'm taking Kentucky. I think 21.5 guys with a healthy Steven Johnson. I think Kentucky will have a chance to score some. Matt, the newsman's taking Kentucky, as is the bad boy Alan Smothers.
You keep saying that about Steven Johnson. It sounds like it's not like Michael Vick's walking through that door.
No, he's a good player, though. I mean, every time I've seen him play, especially the last 2 years against South Carolina, he's played extremely well. And
about a 55% passer. He's not necessarily a threat that would necessarily change the spread ginormously like that.
I'm not really worried about his passing. I worry about his body type. He's that wiry type of guy. He comes journeying out of that pocket. Georgia's going to make a wish. Those linebackers are going to hit him.
Well, we shall see. I think Kentucky's better with him in there. I'm not saying Kentucky's going to win the game. I think he's going to at least get them enough points to where they will cover the spread with the 21.5. Now, I'm not predicting a Kentucky victory. I'm just thinking they'll score some points with him, and we'll have enough points to put some points on my side of the ledger. That's all
I
I
don't know
care.
if they can come within 21 in 2 games against Kentucky.
Okay, we shall see. When we come back, Wofford coach Mike Ayers will join us. We'll find out how practice went for the Terriers this week and getting ready for the Gamecocks, how he feels about the matchup. We got Frank Martin comments coming your way. We'll update basketball scores. Oh, we've still got recruiting for you as well. Stay tuned for that. We'll be back.
Hour 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We continue on this busy Friday night edition of Sports Talk. Around the state of South Carolina, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Understand we've had a bunch of people waiting to get on the show tonight. I know what you want to talk about. Oh, you want to blast me? That's fine. We'll try to get to phone calls if you still hang in there with us in a few minutes. Try to get to them in a little while. Right now, though, let's get our attention back to football. Big football weekend, of course. Got Clemson at home against the Citadel to face that triple option. And here comes Wofford coming down I-26 to Columbia with their triple option to face the Gamecocks. We have Coach Mike Ayers of the Terriers with us. Coach, good evening. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Phil?
We're great. Thank you for joining us. It's so neat to have a college football coach on with us the night before a game. That doesn't happen very often, so we appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to do it.
You are indeed the man. How was your week of practice and getting ready for the Gamecocks?
Good. I think the kids are focused. We had basically a kicking review today. Everybody seemed like that they were into it. Didn't have any miscues, which is important. And I think that we know that it's going to take a great effort to have an opportunity to be successful down there, but we're capable of it if we play the way that we need to play.
You know, you're a football coach, and you want to win every game. I get that, and you want to beat South Carolina. That would be huge for you and the program. But you got bigger fish to fry too. Would you not agree with that? With the playoffs coming up, I mean, don't you in any way do you go into this way making sure that you don't do anything that would hurt your chances for a run to the national championship?
Well, I think every game that you play, you're going to try to do your best to be competitive and to win. And there is no doubt other things ahead for us, but like I told the guys the week that we played VMI, I said that, that the goal has always been, first and foremost, the Southern Conference Championship. And VMI was last week, and that was our focus. And it happens to be South Carolina this week, and that's been our total focus. We're going to play our best players, and we're going to compete as hard as we can, and hopefully with some luck and good fortune, we can maybe have a chance to have a shot at them at the end.
Coach, how do you go about just managing the balance? And this is something that I'm sure you have a lot of experience with, having played in these types of games. But, anytime you go in there with a new group, how do you go about managing the fact that you will have guys that, will be wide-eyed and, it's a big stadium, it's a big stage, that kind of thing?
Right.
How do you go about that?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we try to emphasize to our guys is the only opponent that we have is the one that's going to suit up and play on that field. And we know that in cases like this, the odds are stacked against you. The talent level is different. We're smart enough. We understand that, but at the same time, we have good players. We have guys that are willing to compete, and if they go out and they do their best and have a chance to get it done, then that would be great. If you go out and do your best and you lose by 30, that's great because you've done your best. And it comes down to just making sure that we do what we do and don't worry about what they do. Let's be the best Wofford team we can be, and that's kind of the direction that we've tried to emphasize to them. And we have we have a lot of guys that have played at this level, whether it be ACC, SEC, Big 12. I think we've played, like, in my 30 years at Wofford, we played like 25 of them, of these types of games. And you go and you give it your best shot. You play and you play with a great deal of intensity, a great deal of heart. You give it everything you got. You do your job, and then at the end of the day, you take what comes.
You guys look at this season, you're comfortable maybe with tight games against some of you Terrier fans reaching for the mailbox in some of these games. but when you look at this game, not only this game tomorrow, if you can make it a fourth quarter game, but also how much will that help you playoffs, knowing that these guys, when it's down to the nitty gritty in the fourth quarter, they don't panic.
Well, they've proved that week after week. We've had 10 games. We're 9-1, and every game except for the last one was tight, and you can't get any tighter than 1 point wins. You have 2 games. You have an overtime game that we're fortunate enough to win, and you have a double overtime game that we were fortunate enough to win. So our guys are used to being in the fight all the way till the end, and they don't get rattled. They just believe that somehow, some way, somebody's going to make a play. And that's kind of been the way that it's been all year. Our coaching staff's done an unbelievable job with the crew of guys that we've got. And we got a lot of good guys. They're fun guys to be around, fun guys to coach. And they like the process. They like, the practices, although some days they don't like it quite as much, depending on how we push it. But they want that opportunity for greatness, whether it be to win a Southern Conference championship, upset an SEC team, or win a national championship.
Well, I don't know if you believe in omens or not, but 116 years ago to the date tomorrow, November 18th, 1901, Wofford beat South Carolina in Spartanburg, 11-6. I don't think you were coaching the Terriers at the time, but point is
that was 2 years before I started.
Corn covered that game, he'll tell you.
That's true. I was there. I love the single wing. But the last 3 times you've come to Columbia, I mean, you've had your chances against the Gamecocks, 27-20, 23-13, and 24-7, which was closer than that final score indicates. Right.
And when you play the type of team that Carolina possesses, you got to hope that, toward the end, you can have a chance. We kind of had those chances over those few years, and for whatever reason, Carolina was able to make a play and stop us down on the goal line, and we're getting ready to go ahead in the fourth quarter, and we got a guy that doesn't have the ball in the proper arm, and Carolina has a safety. It's an all-world guy, and he puts his hat on the ball, and the ball goes out.
Coach, hang on right there. Hang on if you don't mind. We'll come back to you and finish up in just a minute, visiting with Mike Ayers of Wofford. Be right back. right, back we are, Sports Talk, visiting for a couple of more minutes with Wofford coach Mike Ayers. Really appreciate the time. So go ahead. You were talking about a chance to score on the Gamecocks. I imagine that was DJ Swearinger that came down and put his helmet on the football on that play you were talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly who it was. And after that, the wheels kind of fell off. So when you're playing those guys, and Carolina's got an awesome team. They got some great players. They're physical. They show their toughness throughout the game in every phase. And we just got to do our part. And a big part of this game is going to be hopefully being able to take care of the ball, limit possessions, and give ourselves a chance at the end. But all that being said, it'll all pan out tomorrow one way or the other. Bottom line is I hope we play our best game, and I hope they play their best game, and just see what the score is.
Huh. You think you can beat them at your best, them playing their best? Can you beat them at their best if you're playing your best?
Well, I believe we'll have a chance.
Very good. You and Muschamp, you get out there at midfield before the game, you're going to judo chop him or anything like that just to show him who's boss?
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I've had a chance to meet him, talk with him, and he's a good ball coach now. I'll tell you that. And, you know, he's one of those guys you don't have to guess what he's feeling. You know, he's kind of like so many coaches, you know, they're passionate and, you know, want to win, and they'll express themselves in many ways. So we're no different. You know, when things are going good, you get excited, and when things are going bad, you get excited. One's at one end of the spectrum, and the other is at the opposite end.
Oh, you got y'all tucked in the Marriott down on Main Street in Columbia, all tucked in, ready to go?
No, we bust down tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to leave Sparkle City and get down there and have a sandwich before the game, and then we're going to play it.
They give you all an escort, Coach?
To what?
They give you all a police escort on the way down on I-26?
I think we're supposed to get something along the way. I'm not sure whether it's from Spartanburg or from Newberry or from Chapin or just outside the stadium, but we'll get there one way or the other.
Hey, one last thing, historically speaking, and I mean, this is not in your favor, but you'll go down in history with the Gamecocks. Should they beat you, it'll be their 600th win all time, so that'll always be in their media guide. Wofford, number 600.
Wow.
Just in case you're wondering.
Well, yeah, that's special. I'm glad I know that.
Listen, have a safe trip down I-26. If you need some blue lights to help you, just do 85 miles an hour, and you'll see some blue lights pop up, I promise you. And we'll see you after the game. All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Corn, you're supposed to say that the number 600 is supposed to come against Clemson. That's what you're supposed to say. That's how you rile people up.
Rile people up? Why would I want to do that?
You had no problem doing it earlier.
On a wonderful Friday evening, why would I want to do that? Thanks to Coach Mike Ayers. Isn't he the best? I tell you, he's just so cool to talk to, and very appreciative of him taking his time out to join us here on a Friday night before he plays a huge game against the Gamecocks. And you know what, guys? His attitude is, you know, I like what he said. We play our best. They play at their best. I think we can hang in there with them.
From a chess match standpoint, I have a feeling he truly thinks that, because, Corn, when you look at Muschamp, who's a defensive coach, and you look at Mike Ayers using the option, both coaches utilize curbing possessions. So Muschamp obviously is playing somewhat into Mike Ayers' hands because he too likes to curb possessions. So from a chess standpoint, I think he really does have that feed him because he's got a coach that thinks like him, and he thinks his offense is better at curbing possessions than the offense to South Carolina.
But Corn made a good point, and clip this because I'm going to say that Corn made a good point. The fact that when you think about the way that Wofford's season has gone, yes, they've played a bunch of close games, but like you said, Corn, they have bigger fish to fry. In a way, I almost feel like they have to be concerned about their playoff run as much as anything, whether or not they putting out all the guns against South Carolina is one thing independent of another. But if you're getting into a third quarter game and it's maybe a 2 or 3 score game, and maybe you sit Goodson, maybe you sit some of these other guys who you want to at least ensure their health for a potential playoff run in the FCS postseason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they do have the big prize for them as that FCS National Championship, though it would be something special. Ask the Citadel folks how special it was to beat the Gamecocks in 2015, and then they went into the FCS playoffs, and I'm trying to remember. I think they won a couple of games that year, so it didn't – the fact that they won was just a boost. Now, if they happen to lose, the key thing with Wofford is, like you said, don't get anybody, a key player, a quarterback, running back hurt, or anything like that. I tell you what, South Carolina had better not be lulled into a false sense of security about the passing game at Wofford. This is one of the better passing teams that Coach Ayers has had at Wofford. I mean, they do primarily run it, averaging 280 rushing yards per game or 260, something in that neighborhood. But they will drop back and throw the football with Goodson, and they've had some success. I mean, they're 113 passing yards per game. That's not great by the measures of most teams, but for a triple option team that primarily runs the football, you got to respect their ability to drop back and throw it deep on you. A couple of quick recruiting notes here before we hit the bottom of the hour. Monty Dutton will join us. Frank Martin coming up later. We'll let you hear what he had to say about the Gamecocks' win today over UTEP, and then we'll get Willie P's breakdown of Clemson and Hofstra tonight. They don't play till what time, Willie P?
9:30 or 9:30 is at least the potential start time, or 9 o'clock, I think. 9 o'clock.
Defensive lineman Rick Sandage will be back, he tells us, at USC for the Clemson game. He's firmed up that decision. Unofficial visit, bringing his family and a couple of teammates with him. Did not go to a game last weekend, not going to one this weekend. Has not finalized plans for officials, but he's looking at USC, Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan. Those 4, he said, are recruiting him the hardest at this point. He is aware of the recruiting underworld, scuttlebutt, that he's most likely headed to USC, but he's not endorsing those rumors at this point, says he doesn't pay any attention to it. He says people are saying that because of his family ties to USC, but he said they're all about the same with him. All the schools, he said, he said USC is about like all the other schools, really, is how he put it. He is in touch, of course, with Will Muschamp. Lance Thompson likes those two. Will not announce a decision until National Signing Day in February, not the one coming up in December. And 2020 defensive back T. Denson of Jackson, Georgia, plans to be back at Clemson tomorrow. He also visited October the 7th. The Tigers are having their big recruiting weekend this weekend. They've got all their committed players coming in for official visits, and then the other players who we have mentioned previously for official visits are coming in this weekend as well. So this is they're doing this because of the early signees. They've got a lot of early signees, and so they want to get as many official visits in as possible before that. Not all these folks are signing early, but a majority of them are at this particular point. So the Tigers will have their big recruiting weekend of the season coming up this weekend. And, they should have a great day for it with the Citadel, Military Appreciation Day, Senior Day, and, of course, they'll put their best foot forward on trying to impress these guys on what they have to offer at Clemson. Okay, that'll do it on recruiting tonight. Remember to check it out regularly on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, on Twitter. Use the hashtag ST. Recruiting. The full Monty on NASCAR. A lot of stuff happening as we wrap up the season down in Miami. That's coming up next.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
A reminder, tickets for the upcoming Touchstone Energy Bowl North-South game are available for you online. Go to their website and order your tickets now, touchstoneenergybowl.com. Plus, at their magazine website, which is scliving.coop, /touchdown, that particular website, you can get yourself entered to win a couple of tickets to the game, plus a $100 Visa gift card and free Touchstone Energy merchandise. Get that done. The deadline is December 1 for that. Time for the full Monty on NASCAR. Kind of a sad time. Our final visit with the big guy for this racing season. 36 weeks of the full Monty on NASCAR is not nearly enough, but that's all they give us now is 36 weeks. So we also say goodbye this weekend to Dale Jr., to Danica Patrick, to Matt Kenseth. My goodness, are their departures going to overshadow the actual racing and the crowning of a champion?
Well, I think it's going to take some getting used to. I think that a lot of people are going to have to find a new favorite. I think it may. These things are inevitable. Tom Brady's not going to play football forever. When I was a kid, I hated it when David Pearson fell by the wayside and Cale Yarborough. But in the short run, it does challenge the sport. But I think that it's like every other sport. There are some new young men we shall get to know better.
Mm-hmm. In Kansas' case, of course, he won last week. He's still a relatively young guy. I think he still wants to race. Why can't he find another job for next year?
Several people in this category, Kurt Busch is another one. It looks like Kurt Busch will be back, but there's been some. I think what's happening in the sport is that you can tell that finances are tightening and money's not available. And one of the reasons that young drivers are getting a lot of opportunities is that, comparatively speaking, they'll work for nothing. It's kind of like a big league baseball team going with a youth movement and trading off the payroll. So I think that's what's happened to Kansas. There's somebody who's bright and promising to come along, and it'll be interesting to see, Hendrick Motorsports, because we'll have Alex Bowman in Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car next year. I mean, the turnover, Casey Kane took probably a lesser offer, and he's gone from Hendrick. And you wonder how this will change the balance of power. You wonder if it's Chip Ganassi, if Kyle Larson and Jamie McMurray will move up. But you wonder if some of the mega teams are not going to be that strong top to bottom. And if you look at it, that's the case now, because Stuart Haas has not had success thus far with Clint Boyer and Danica Patrick. Hendrick Motorsports is down. Chase Elliott would have a great year if he won a race. Jimmy Johnson's had a bad year except for winning 3 races. Casey Kane's been down. Dale Earnhardt Jr. hasn't won. So, things aren't that well right now, but they're probably going to be even more challenges next year.
Looking at practice results today, 3 of the 4 finalists for the championship went 1, 2, 3. They each ran 7 laps. They were Busch and Truex were over 172, Harvick at 171. Then go down the list, Keselowski, 168.9. So, I mean, any gamesmanship going on there in terms of not wanting to show the other guys exactly what you got? What did you take from practice today?
I don't think so. I think that that's probably an accurate assessment of how they'll be in the race. But that doesn't. I actually think that it would be hard to come up with a better Final 4, because Truex has been consistently fast everywhere all year. Started on the front row, I don't know, over a dozen times. Kyle Busch is always fast every week. It seems like the front row is always either Truex and Busch or Truex and Larson. You know, in Harvick, you probably have Harvick and Keselowski are both canny drivers who are. I think Keselowski has a brilliant strategic, or tactical, I should say, crew chief, and Paul Wolf, and I think that Harvick, Rodney Childers is smart too. But they both are both capable of working themselves into the position to win. Even though it's very likely that Busch and Truex will win the stages, which means nothing now, and lead a bunch of laps. And Harvick and Keselowski will figure out a way to make it in. I think that when Kendrick is gone, those two drivers are going to be the best in the sport at not having anything special, but working themselves into a top five finish by being smart. But you've still got to outrun people. But the race changes, and there's a lot of adjustments. I mean, racing always has people who don't qualify up front, but end up winning or doing that. So I think the favorite is Truex, and the next favorite is Busch, and the next favorite is Harvick, and the next favorite is Keselowski. But it's not going to be a surprise if any of them win, frankly. Mm-hmm. One of them will have trouble. One of them will have big trouble. He'll be eliminated by the halfway mark. But I mean, I think it's pretty, as the old saying is, the race is not always to the swift, but that's the way to bet.
Yeah. Monty, it's weird. In my mind, I think that if it isn't Truex, it'd be a disappointment in my mind, just because of the way that it feels like it would almost be like his whole season's been kind of culminating up to this moment, and he's been so far up in the front, as you said, every time. It just seems like if he doesn't win, I would think it'd be a disappointment.
It would be. This should be his year, but that's not the way the system is designed.
No.
That's why four people have an equal chance at the end.
Which I like.
This is, yeah, well, I mean, there's it sort of depends on whether you prefer madcap entertainment or justice. Madcap entertainment is what they're looking for.
The full Monty on NASCAR with us here as we wrap up the season with the championship down in Miami. So what's the key to racing well on this particular track? What do you think the four contenders will be focused on in terms of the crew chiefs, in terms of getting their cars as best as possible? And then how do you deal with all that traffic that's not involved in the championship?
Well, I think one of the reasons that Busch and Truex are probably the favorites is because there's less chance of them finding trouble by being back in the pack. I think that over the events of the last few weeks, where we had Denny Hamlin eliminate Chase Elliott, and then Chase Elliott returned the favor. There's two ways you can look at that. You can say that they're crossing the line, it's outrageous, but you can also say that conditions have changed, and when you make the format, the awards separate behavior. So I don't know whether anybody's out of line as much as they're changing to meet the new conditions of the sport, but that's another thing, by the way, is that we have a pretty good rivalry, because I think usually Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch don't care for each other. So, they'll probably they probably each should be wary when racing around the other. As I said, things have changed. This is not as gentlemanly a sport, nor can I think of another sport that's particularly gentlemanly, with the possible exception of golf and tennis.
This is true. There's not much left out there that's gentleman in the sports world. Monty, we thank you very much for all your contributions throughout the racing season. Enjoy the championship weekend. Look forward to hooking back up with you in February when we go back to Daytona.
Well, I appreciate it. I will miss you, but sometimes on a Friday evening, I'll have to remember that. So I want to make sure I'm available for commentary.
You got it.
I hope we start fast somewhere.
Thank you, Monty. Check out Monty's other stuff. He writes about a lot of different things on his blog, MontyDutton.com.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Okay, let's get to some basketball. USC, a winner today over UTEP. Gamecocks defeat the Miners 80-56. They jumped out very quickly, hit their first 3 shots, 7 of their first 10. Played really, really good basketball. Offensively, defensively, had 4 scores in double figures, with Silva leading the way with 15 points. Here is Frank Martin following today's win. The loss yesterday still kind of in the back of his mind.
Disappointed with how we played yesterday. Never want to take anything away from the opponent because they beat us. But we played more to our personality, our character, our disciplines that we've tried to create over the first 6 weeks of practice and season. And these two had a lot to do with it. Their leadership, their preparation. Mike, obviously, with the game starting, and then Corey coming off the bench and being ready to go. That provides stability. It provides guidance because we're such a young team. But proud of the way we respond. As I continue to figure our team out, very proud of how our guys responded today.
Frank, what was the biggest key to having more energy today, particularly to start? Was it just what their defense wasn't doing, or just, hey guys, we got to be a little more pumped up today?
All the above, including us as a staff. We probably took it for granted that with such a young team that their mindset would be what last year's mindset was. And we just kind of let them be Wednesday night. We probably should have been a little more aggressive with our mental preparation with them. But that goes back to us continuing to try and figure out our team this year, which has nothing to do with last year. We're just locked in. First 3 possessions. There are 2 things in today's game that said a lot to me about our team. Number one is we came out and played with the energy, the enthusiasm, the disciplines defensively and offensively to start the game. Then the game settles down and they start making a push. And if we were phony, we would have kind of, as the game evolved, we would have wilted into who we really were yesterday. But that's not who we are. So when they made the push, we settled down, we locked in, and then we extended the game even more. We're all still trying to figure each other out. I know him to a certain extent. We're still trying to learn each other, especially this year for him with this year's team. I haven't coached him in a game yet. I've barely coached him in practice. We're trying to figure that one out. It takes time. Takes time.
Right. 14 assists on 17 made field goals in that first half. What did you like differently about your half-court offense today?
Well, we didn't foul. We didn't, defensively, we had no energy yesterday. None. And Illinois State didn't, reinvent the wheel with the offense they ran. They basically gave it to a guy. That guy drove it. And all we did was foul. We didn't guard the ball. Our help side was bad. Our rotations were bad. And all we did was foul. So anytime you do that, it slows the game down. Now it becomes a free throw shooting contest. And so now that means that our free throws, it's hard to run on people because the game stopped. So everything we did was try to play against their zone. Give them credit. Their zone was very active. I probably did a crappy job of preparing us to go against that zone. But our guys tried. Here's one thing that happens, okay? What happened today to start the game? Justin Minaya open in the basket. Chris open in the basket. Whoever open in the basket. It gave us a sense of not only were we geeked up and ready to go, but it lifted our spirits. Yesterday was open, clank, open, clank, open, clank. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you make shots, and it makes you a better offense. It makes the coach look a lot smarter than he is when you're making shots. And when you miss shots, it makes us look a lot dumber than we are. But we're all in this together. We're into trying to figure out who we're going to become as a team. And you don't become whoever you are in November. November is just a chapter into you becoming the team that you're going to be in March.
Okay, Frank Martin following the win. Willie P., you had a chance to talk to Brad Brownell about the win last night and the game coming up tonight.
Yeah, they beat Ohio 81-76, Corn, behind a big night from Dante Grantham, 20 points. Elijah Thomas had 17 and 15, one of 4 players for Clemson in double figures. And they see a bit of a surprise tonight. I think if you had polled the audience, you would think that maybe Dayton would have been able to get past the pride of Hofstra out of the Colonial Athletic Conference. But instead, the team out of Hempstead, New York, will face Clemson tonight. And Brad Brownell said that's about as good a basketball as they've played all year. Clemson head coach Brad Brownell here with us after the big victory over Ohio, getting ready for either Dayton or Hofstra coming up Friday. How much did that first 8 minutes of the second half really kind of change the complexion of the basketball game?
Well, it did. I thought it was, a back and forth game through most of the first half. I thought we ended the half or played pretty well through most of the end of the second half, and kind of had a little bit of a lead. Then credit Ohio U for making a couple plays to bring it back. Came in at halftime, made 1 or 2 adjustments. I thought those things helped us defensively. We did a better job on Dardis. It's always difficult when you've only had like 1 tape on a team and you don't really know their personnel very well, and so you kind of got to make some changes. Thought we did that, and then played really well offensively in terms of having a mix to our game. We got it into Eli, but we also made threes, drove it to the basket, got fouled. I thought our guys did a really good job offensively in the game.
Yeah, Dardis only had, I think, 1 attempt in the first 8 minutes or so of the second half. You guys really focused your defense on it.
Well, we did. I mean, he really hurt us. He made a 3, and we fouled him on a 3, and that kind of gave him rhythm. And once you let a guy like that get rhythm, you're going to have some problems. And they did a good job of screening for him, finding some things. They played a little differently than we kind of practiced for some things. So, again, it's early year. You don't have a lot of information on everybody. And so, again, I thought we made some good adjustments at halftime, but it was a very hard-fought game.
What's the next 24 hours like for you guys as you now get a little rest, but also have to kind of get a mental game going for your next opponent, whoever it might be?
We're going to be busy. Obviously, we're going to scout the next game. And then we'll meet all night trying to figure out a game plan for who we play, and probably meet with our team for an hour tonight at some point, and then get prepared tomorrow. And it'll be a long day because we don't play till 9:30, so we'll have plenty of time to kind of get organized and try to put together a game plan.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
And they did their work early, Corn. I mean, when you think about the way that things have gone for them this season, you wonder kind of their defense is going to really dominate things, but they were really impressive on the glass. They had 17 of the first 24 rebounds in the second half. They shot 59% in the opening half. And, again, they're going to play a team tonight in Hofstra that got past a Dayton team that was in the tournament last year. Again, new coaching staff, some new faces. And the winner of this game will also get another bit of a surprise, Temple, who gets past Auburn 88-74 in what was the semifinal game earlier today. In my mind, Corn, these tournament games, you really never know what you're going to expect because it's a different environment. It's the shooting background might not always be what you were necessarily looking for. So these things are kind of you kind of just roll the ball out there and see what happens.
How good was Eli Thomas last night?
He was good, man. I tell you what, and I said this to him in the post game. It seemed like at times he was almost surprised that he was as open and that he was able to get to the rim as easy as he did. And I think you're starting to see it click with him, especially when he gets himself positioning. There were still a couple of moments of growth for him, but in my mind, he's going to be a real good player for Clemson, not only this year but and beyond.
And, of course, you got to remember that Hofstra is in the CAA, and I think the tournament is in Charleston. So they've seen this court before.
Yes, and they will see it later on this year too, Pro. So you are absolutely right. They were picked to finish 4th in the Colonial. Of course, as you know, Charleston picked in the preseason to finish 1st in the CAA.
And, Corn, where you are is ironic that Western Michigan wins, so South Carolina have to see them again on Sunday afternoon, and they just beat them. But that happened, about 4 years ago when South Carolina beat Akron out in Honolulu, and remember they both flew back after Christmas, played 3 days earlier, and South Carolina beat them again by 23. I think in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah, Western Michigan beat App State 86-67, and also here it was Boise over Illinois State 82-64. Football coverage tomorrow from Clemson and USC on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. High school scoreboards later tonight. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.